everyone, my name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today we are going to be talking about how we can help new people in our community feel welcome. And this subject really feels like the intersection of so many things that I've been discussing recently. I just did a video where I talked about how do you know if you're still new or not, and how you can keep the progress going in your kink journey. I also made another video a few weeks back where I discussed tops feeling used in our community because there is something of a weird evolution that can happen sometimes where a top can go from being in the community for 3-6 months, a year, with nobody wanting to play with them, with nobody wanting to interact with them, to suddenly becoming really super popular overnight, but then also not feeling emotionally fulfilled because everybody's just kind of using them to have their own scenes done, as opposed to getting that emotional connection they might be looking for. In addition to the videos that I've done, I've also been catching up on some of the podcasts that I like listening to. One of them is Loving BDSM by Kayla Lords and John Brownstone, and they had an episode back in July that discussed helping people feel welcome in our community, so this exact very subject. Now, Kayla and John are pretty experienced in BDSM. They even used to help host a munch in their old community, but they moved. And so they had to kind of start over a little bit again. They were meeting new people. They were getting restarted in a new location. And so naturally they went to a munch. And they had an awful time. They did not feel welcome. They felt like nobody cared that they were there. They felt like nobody recognized that they put out the effort to go to the event. They just felt really, really awful. And it wasn't a situation where it was like, oh, woe is me, nobody recognized me at this munch, and blah, blah, blah. It was not like that. It was kind of a realization of like, wow, we have each other, and we've been going to munches for a long time, and so we know what to expect, and we know this isn't maybe normal, but somebody who is brand new, this could be their only experience at a munch ever, that maybe their first time they've done anything BDSM related, and now their first impression is that this is cliquey, and people are not welcoming, and people don't like me, and people don't want to be around me, and this isn't the scene that I should be in, and they might not ever show up ever again. And just like that, somebody's like entire BDSM world is non-existent, and they never get the opportunity to even start on their kink journey, which I think is really, really sad. And this is something that Kayla touched on in the video as well, is that it's very difficult when you are new to get up the courage to even go to events in the first place. It takes maybe weeks, months, years for somebody to finally have the confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to get out there, I'm going to go to a munch, I don't know anybody, but I'm going to be brave enough, and I'm going to try it, and I'm going to see how it goes. And as people who are already in the community, we have a lot of advantages in that we usually feel comfortable in spaces, we usually know people, and it's easy to kind of just be on coast and kind of just hang out with people we know. But the people who are new that are trying it for the first time, if nobody talks to them, they might not ever show up again. And I think we need to recognize how hard it is to get up the courage to even go in the first place and say, hey, I know it was probably a lot of effort for you to decide to show up today, and I'm so glad that you're here. And I think if we did that more, our community would be a much better place. Now, I am very fortunate that I live in an area where the people who run our munches care a lot about welcoming new people into our community spaces, and they have designed things in such a way to where I think they are easier to navigate and less cliquish. So what I want to do in today's video is go over some of those concepts for success so we can help our community spaces feel more welcoming. You can be just a random person at an event, you can be an event organizer, you can be somebody who's gone to like 5 munches before, you can be somebody who's been doing this for 5 years. It doesn't really matter, no matter what level you are at. If you are at a munch, there are things that you can do to help make our community a more welcoming place. And this is not to say that you're not doing a good job already, or that you're not not doing enough, but these are just some maybe little extra additional ideas that if you are not already implementing, or if you're seeing issues in your community with new people coming back for additional events, maybe trying out some of these might help you have better success with people staying in your community and people feeling like this is something that they can be a part of, or you just like maybe gaining some skills to have like better conversations with people, because that's definitely a big part of all of this as well. So the first thing, the big thing, is smiling and nonverbal communication and body language. When it comes to BDSM play, we oftentimes talk about things like energy or like a vibe in a scene space, like at a dungeon where a lot of people are playing. So you can have scene spaces that feel really like primal and raw. You can have things that feel very like lighthearted and giggly. You can have things that feel really like intense and heavy. And depending on what people are doing and how they're like just projecting their energy out into that space, it can make things feel really different from scene to scene and from place to place. And that same thing can also happen in munches. Basically, anytime you get a group of people together where they're interacting, there's going to be little signals that we all send out to each other. Like, for example, a big thing that I do, which is not good, is I cross my arms. I have done this like my whole life, basically, at least since I was like 4 or 5, I would do this because to me, I am trying to keep my hands warm because I am cold a lot, and this helps me not feel so cold. But most people would interpret this kind of body language as being closed off. They would interpret that as me being standoffish or not wanting to talk to other people or wanting to be left alone, when really I'm just like trying to stay warm. And so when I'm in a community space, I try my best to not do like this sort of closed off body language, because I know it's not sending out the signals that I want to. I am not communicating with intent and purpose when I am doing this. So if you are in a community space, just be aware of like how you're holding your body. Are you scowling? Are you frowning? Are you hunching your shoulders? Are you crossing your arms? Are you turning your back to people? Or are you like open? Are you smiling? Are you saying hi to people? Are you waving? There are just little tiny behavior changes you can make here to help things feel like they are more welcoming and open. Like literally all you have to do is have a little smile and be like, oh, hi, nice to see you. Like, no further interaction required. Just like a little tiny thing like that can be like a buoy in an endless ocean of like, oh my God, what am I doing? This is so terrifying and scary. You can be that light in the darkness to help somebody feel like, oh my God, like I'm not just invisible. Somebody knows that I'm here and somebody cares. Just like that little tiny thing. And in addition, when you are changing your behavior, when you are changing how you present yourself and you're smiling, other people are going to pick up on that around you, and they are also going to start to adopt that same behavior. And then it's a domino effect where suddenly everybody is acting a little bit more open and maybe being a little bit more friendly, and that can just absolutely change the vibe of the place in no time. And after you've done a little smile and wave, the next thing is obviously to introduce yourself. And I think, again, we need to recognize that it is very difficult sometimes to even get the courage to go to an event. And I think we put too much pressure on people to do all of the go-getting in the socializing aspect of the BDSM community when they are new. They have to go to all the events. They have to introduce themselves. They have to butt into conversations. And you can help break the ice and make that easier for someone by just saying like, oh, hi, nice to see you. My name's Evie. Do you shake? Okay, it's great to meet you, and what's your name? And then you can just have a little bit of a friendly rapport. You can just have a little bit of an introduction, and that even just by itself can be really great because, again, like Kayla and John mentioned during their podcast, like nobody even really did that with them. Like they did not get any introductions. They did not get any names first, and like it can feel a little bit more threatening if somebody just goes up to you and says like, oh, hey, are you new here? As opposed to being like, oh, hi, nice to see you. My name's blah, blah, blah. Like if you approach it from the perspective of like you're introducing yourself as opposed to like interrogating somebody, that's going to be a lot more positive for a lot of people. The next step after that is, of course, having a conversation. Now, all of these suggestions are ideas for things you might do. They are not requirements. It is about what is good for you, what's within your ability and skill set and everything else. But if you are somebody who feels comfortable having a conversation, if you want to be the welcome wagon, if you're willing to take one for the team because you realize how important it is for your community, awesome, thank you, I respect that immensely. But having a conversation is another really key component of helping somebody feel welcome, because again, it's just another elevation of that aspect of somebody feeling like, oh hey, somebody cares that I'm here, somebody's interested in what I have to say, and I feel like I have permission to participate in this. Because usually people are nervous about like breaking like social codes they don't really know about yet. Like, can I butt into this conversation? Is this a private thing or not? Am I allowed to interject? And so by starting a conversation with that person, that permission to interact is kind of already built in there, yeah? So they don't have to go through the hard mental work of deciding whether or not they're going to accidentally be rude by interjecting to somebody else's conversation. Along with that, eye contact is so important in communication. This is another one I'm really bad at. I have a tendency to like look at the ground or like look below somebody as opposed to directly at them, because I find it's like too intimidating to maintain eye contact for long periods of time. But when you are in a one-on-one conversation with somebody, maintaining eye contact communicates that you care about what they have to say, that you are listening to them, that you hear them, that you want to be around them. If you are looking everywhere else, if you're like squinting your eyes at the drink menu across on the other side of the building, if you're like talking to them but you're looking directly at somebody else the whole time, like that is saying, I don't really want to be in this conversation. I'm looking for a way to get out. I don't really care what you have to say. And that's not going to help somebody feel welcome. It might even do more damage than having not tried to start a conversation in the first place. There's a little bit of a different rule when it comes to group conversations or when you're at a table with somebody, because there you kind of want to apply a technique that is used when you're giving presentations, where you change your gaze in the audience to help everybody in the audience feel connected to what you're saying. You want to shift your gaze when you are in a group conversation, because that is saying, I want everybody to participate in this. I want everybody's opinion. I want everybody's input, as opposed to what oftentimes can happen where like there's A, B, C, and D all at a table together, but like A and B are having a really intense conversation. And then the other people are like, am I allowed to interject here? Like, is this a group conversation or are they having a private thing now? And when you are changing your gaze, you're not just like focusing in on one person. Everybody gets the opportunity to share their thoughts and ideas and opinions and jokes. And for a new person who doesn't really know a lot of people yet, who doesn't really maybe get other people's humor or really maybe even kind of know what to talk about, if they can just kind of get little like snippets in there of like participating in a conversation, that can go a really long way to helping making those connections and potentially even starting to form friendships. Now, this is another big one that's definitely an ask that is not for everybody in the community. But if you are willing and if you are able, answering questions for new people is a really important thing to do as well. At Munches, depending on the environment, depending on the setting, there are different kind of levels of kink conversation that might happen. Some of them are in like adult-oriented spaces where they're like 21 plus only, and there's going to be a lot of kink conversation happening. But it could also be in the middle of the daytime at a coffee shop where like anybody can overhear what you're saying and no kink conversation is going to happen. And regardless of which one of those two might happen, usually new people have a very rudimentary understanding of BDSM and might feel embarrassed to ask kind of basic questions like, what exactly is a dungeon like? Or what are safe words? Or how can I meet a partner? Or how should I approach a submissive? And if you can be that person to start a conversation with them and be willing to answer those questions, that can go such a long way for that person feeling like, oh, okay, I kind of maybe understand what's going on here. I know how to interact with people now. I know the terms. I feel more confident. And beyond that, you can also be someone who is helping them navigate where to go in a local community, because there can be kind of one of two problems. One, there's nothing that's public and it's all underground, and the only way that you know about things is through Munches, and so unless you tell them that things are happening, they're not going to know. Or the community is so big and there's so many things happening that they don't even really know where to start or where would be a good fit for them. So maybe if you're in a conversation with somebody and they mention that they're kind of interested in trying rope, if you know about a place where they can maybe see rope happening, or if there's like a beginner's focus like rope event or something going on, you can say, oh, okay, actually there's like this like rope jam that happens every Friday night. If you want to know more about it, you can like message this person on FetLife and I would be like happy to get you their information or blah, 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 whatever. And not only does that mean that they are forming connections at that munch, they are also learning how to navigate the larger community and really start to get their feet under them, really start to feel like, oh, okay, like I have not only just this one space, but I have this whole community that I can explore, and I'm kind of understanding a little bit more about what all of this is like. Now, at the same time though, you don't want to assume somebody's experience level. Like, hopefully when you're doing the sort of introductory conversation to all of this, we're like, oh, hi, it's nice to meet you. Have you been to this munch before? Oh, how long have you been interested in BDSM for? That kind of thing. You can get a sense of how much that person actually knows, because just because somebody is new to an event does not mean they are new to kink. Like, you can be new to a community without being new to BDSM as a concept. So just like what happened with Kayla Lords and John Brownstone, like they might be somebody who went to this bunch 5 years ago and then they had a kid and they stopped for the last 3 years and now they're starting to get back into things. Or maybe it was a situation where they moved for work and now they moved back. Or maybe they took a break for a really long time because they had a bad breakup and now they feel like they've kind of recovered from that. There's so many reasons why somebody might be experienced in kink but would be new to your community. So be kind of careful about like overly like explaining things and kind of assuming what somebody's experience level is, because like I'm young, I'm 25, I'm sure if I showed up to a munch where there was a bunch of 40-year-old leather people, a lot of them would probably assume that I've never done kink before, when in reality talking about it on YouTube is my job. So, you know, don't make assumptions, don't be an asshole. New people are going to appreciate having their questions answered, and even for people who are more experienced, they're probably going to want some information about like, hey, what's the local dungeon scene like, when are the parties, who hosts things at their house, so on and so forth. Now, my final thing I want to think about here is specifically for people who organize munches, because there are a few things I think that you can do to really help make sure that people are included. The big thing to remember is that you, as the event organizer, get to create the culture of the thing that you host. It does not dictate you, you dictate it. Now, everybody kind of brings their own personality to the table, so if you have a lot of people that are like really introverted or really extroverted, that can kind of alter things a little bit. But there are behaviors that you can make like normal practice for your munch space. So for example, some of the things that I see in my local community would be that at some of the munches, people that host them come in with like icebreaker like discussion questions. So if there's like a lull in the conversation, or if a new person comes by, we can talk about things like, oh, hey, what are some types of play that people don't realize are dangerous? And then suddenly you can have a whole conversation about like kink and ethics and play. And then that gives an opportunity for somebody who's new to kind of interject and give some of their own perspective. You can also do things like have people wear name tags, so that way you don't even have to do like the awkward introduction thing. You can just be like, oh, hey, I already know that person's pronouns and their name. Awesome. You can also do things like have everybody introduce themselves at the beginning of a munch. So that's just like a normal thing that everybody does. Like everybody is like, oh, hi, my name's Evie. You know, my name's John. My name is Susie. My name's blah, blah, blah. And everybody goes around and they can all share their names, all share a little bit about themselves. And so that way it's not just like singling out the new person, so they have to introduce themselves to everybody else, but it's just like a regular practice that everybody does. You can also definitely have things that make it a little bit easier for people to socialize. So you can have things like board games or card games, just anything that makes it kind of easy for people to interact and kind of start participating if they are not kind of conversationally focused, let's say. And that'll depend on the venue where the munch is or wherever this is going on, because like, I mean, if you're at like a coffee shop, maybe having a small card game out makes sense. But if you're in the middle of a super, super busy, like high-end restaurant, it might be kind of weird to have like, I don't know, Cards Against Humanity going on in the middle of a fancy restaurant, for example. So, you know, take everything with a grain of salt, take the suggestions that work for you and leave the things that don't, as always. But those are just some ideas for things that you can do to help people feel more welcome. Now, as an event organizer, I really feel like you have the most power, the most kind of tool set available to you to help people feel welcome. So even if nobody else is wearing a name badge or something, you just have like a, you know, something like a lanyard, or maybe you have a name tag yourself, something so that way you are identifiable to new people. So you can be that buoy in the darkness. You can be that light for somebody to say, oh, okay, oh my God, there's at least like one person here that I can like talk to and that will be friendly with me. And then when you are the organizer, it is then your job, I think, in my opinion, to make sure you are consciously going out and introducing yourself to people and kind of helping people meet other people. Like, oh, hi, I see you're new here. Like if you see somebody kind of off by themselves. Oh, have you been here before? Okay, I thought I didn't recognize you. Well, like, would you like to say hi to some people? Let me introduce you to my friends. And then you can take them over and then you can introduce them to like A, B, C, D, and E. And then they can all get a conversation going. Like, you know, being a good host, helping everybody mix socially in a harmonious way. And yeah, that's basically what I would say that we can do as a community to help people feel welcome. And I know that this mostly talked about munches as the environment, but honestly, anywhere that has a social component, like maybe the social period before the play starts at a dungeon night, or maybe just general socializing at a convention or at any sort of BDSM activity, most of these things are going to be applicable in some way. So munches, dungeons, after parties for things, all of this can really be applied in one way or another to those events as well. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. I make videos twice a week about all sorts of different kink and BDSM related topics. If you want to support my channel, the best way you can do that is through Patreon. Link to that will be down below. That is what allows me to make these videos, and it also allows me to make you guys extra content like bonus videos and photo shoots, as well as a Discord chat. So if you haven't seen that already, please check that out. Link to that will also be down in the description box below. If you already support me over there, thank you so, so much. It means the absolute world to me. And until I see you guys next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.